Daily perspective, once again, no changes. Our main scenarios on Bitcoin daily has been since February, the daily 100 MA, daily 300 MA compression, basically sitting on your ends for swings on Bitcoin and mostly just trying to navigate lower time frame trading gap fills when there are any. Once again, it's something that we covered extensively, discussed a lot. We took a lot of trades on lower time frame on Bitcoin ever since we entered that daily EMA compression, but most of them were mostly just H1, H4 based trades trying to capture some gap fills that were created after big moves. And I think we did it pretty successfully, to be honest, especially considering that scalping is not necessarily my main strength, but I think that we've applied two things. The first thing is that the market has been fairly good for scalping, mostly because as much as we've been compressing on the daily, we've done it in a more or less 15K region, and obviously creating some gaps on H1, H4 that we've been able to navigate. But again, our main idea or main expectation, I would be willing to play much of a bigger trade than what we've been doing over the past couple of months, would be the resolution of a daily EMA compression. Once again, using last year's example, with potential deviation above, potential deviation below, which we got last week. But overall, the plan has not changed. I'm willing to participate on lower time frame trades as long as we have things to take, but I'm still waiting for a much more compressed situation to consider swinging and obviously ideally to the upside. So yeah, no changes. I believe that the plan has been perfectly respected. The only thing that I would love to see for the plan to be really a banger would be, before we get into the very compressed region, at least get the daily 100 MA retest. I don't know how I would feel about a deviation in the highs area only to get back within the compression. I've said last week that I was seeing the deviation below back inside the range as something not necessarily bearish nor bullish, but mostly neutral. So for consistency, I would need to see it as neutral, but we see it is. So yeah, no changes on the daily perspective. We're pretty much back into what we've identified a couple of months ago as a potential mid-range / middle of the compression, with daily 200 EMA flat, daily 100 daily trend disrespected. So yeah, that's where we're sitting basically. My main expectation short term within that compression would therefore be that we have a strong fight in the middle, which we have been seeing for the past 3 days or so now, 4 days, and resolution out of it either gives us a retest of near daily 100 MA region and a resolution to the breakdown, a retest near daily 300 MA. If these moves are not triggered by external news, whether it's bullish or bearish, I would love to see daily 100 MA and daily 300 MA defended. If it's triggered by, just like last week, tariffs announcement and resolution and all of that, I believe we have room for deviation once again. But if it's purely Bitcoin moving, I would prefer to see this region and this region to be defended and respected. On Monday, we also compounded on ETH short from 2K plus. Another thing that we discussed on stream on Saturday, I was saying that I wanted us to see some sort of a slow grind up into lowering H4 100 MA, and that I was fine giving this a shot, especially as long as ETH were remaining pretty shit, which is, I believe, a fairly common condition. But as you can see, unfortunately, we've got the target one compounding region front run by a couple of dollars earlier. I guess it's part of the game. If we want us to see our target one ETH on Bitcoin, we have to accept that we might see ETH come for the retest of the 1700s. I would be fine with that. I would be more than fine with that. If we are to get, and you're gonna see why with the alts short that I've been eyeing, if we were to see a spike up first, I think that would be pretty sweet. But yeah, still in that, a little bit sad that we got target one front run by nothing, but it's a compounding setup. I think we entered it at Pico top yesterday. The lower H4 100 MA gets, the better the entry, the better the invalidation, in my opinion. So yeah, no changes over there. One of the things that makes me confident still, mostly looking for shorts on ETH, is obviously the daily chart. Slow grind up into daily downtrend while daily stock is catching up with price. Once again, if you remember the recent educational content I've made about ideal trend, follow-up setup and compounding, if we invert the charts, if you remember the content that we pushed on the educational section, basically the idea was when we have a trend follow-up, ideal setups are the confluence of a key horizontal level flip plus stock resetting and trend catching up with price. We have the trend catching up with price. Stock RSI needs to be inversed, obviously, but it doesn't do it with when you add the chart. But yeah, we have stock reset, trend catching up, previous level a spike into the daily trend will be ideal for a continuation setup to the downside. That's what's making me still confident, mostly looking for shorts and mostly still looking for compounding on our short, especially considering that the initial position has been taken in the 2K region. If this compounding setup was to fail and the market was to spike more than I could expect, I would be willing to short once again with size a daily trend retest, or maybe let it deviate a little bit above if it's strong enough to deviate a little bit above, and then continue shorting it if it loses it again. But overall, for me to be willing to stop the red button on ETH, I would want to see that daily downtrend to finally be broken. Obviously, it's been the same one since 3.5k, so I think it's a 50% daily downtrend, good enough, strong enough to continue being respected and not to fight it. And I believe it's pretty much the same story on the ETH BTC pair, isn't it? I'm willing to flip into being a ETH maximalist once again, like in the good old days. We will need to see at least that daily downtrend to be broken, in which case on a strong enough market we could have opened some quite nice gap fill to chase. I don't know what could be the catalyst outside of Bitcoin pumping for ETH to do so. If that was to happen, would it be able to outperform Bitcoin while it does so? That's always the same question. That's why we would need to keep an eye on the ETH BTC pair. But yeah, this gives you an idea. The update on the ETH BTC short is that no changes, willing to stay in that compounding short as long as we are below H4 100 MA. I would love to see some sort of a compression like this. If it resolves to the downside, banger for the short. If it resolves to the upside, probably invalidated, and we wait for the H4 200 MA retest above and we decide what we want to do there. Wait for a retest higher of the daily trend, or try to short a breakdown. Yeah, you can see it's a similar idea. I did not take this setup, but it's a similar idea pretty much everywhere. That's the struggle I've been facing since yesterday. My fingers have been itching to share the setups and open some shorts on these. I think you can easily see it by how many times I've mentioned these since yesterday. Basically saying that I was watching all of these to short, but eyes on H4 trend development and retest for Kaito, not Ibera for shorts, especially if market rolls over. We might need to play more aggressively. And that's what I've been stuck with since yesterday. And if you want the list, it's this one. It's ENA, Kaito, EOS, NOT, Bera, IP. I think you could have an argument for a short on ENA on pretty much any time frame you're looking at, to be honest. Whether it's the daily time frame, which this would be a preferred setup, for example. H4, this could be just as good of a setup, much more aggressive, obviously. So I've been a bit stuck. I don't know if I need to play this aggressively. We've been catching some very good trades lately, both directions. We got some nice sol, some nice ETH, some nice shorts left and right, some nice longs on Bitcoin and Fartcoin. Do I really need to try outsmart the current H4 chop fest that we have, or should I just wait for the market to show its hands